Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Friendly English Practice, where learning English feels easy, enjoyable, and full of positive energy. I'm your host, Lina, and today we're talking about something that every learner needs: motivation. We all start learning English with excitement, right? We say, "This time I'll practice every day." But after a few weeks, the excitement disappears. So how do we stay motivated, even when we feel tired or lazy or busy? To help us with that, I have my wonderful guest, Stephen, who has helped hundreds of students stay consistent and confident in their English journey. Welcome, Stephen.
Hi, Lina. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here again. And yes, motivation is such an important topic because without it, even the best learning plan doesn't work.
Exactly. Sometimes we focus on grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, but we forget about the energy behind it, motivation. So, Stephen, let's start from the beginning. What exactly does motivation mean in learning English?
Good question. Motivation is that inner energy that makes you take action. It's what makes you open your book, listen to a podcast, or speak in English even when you feel shy. It's the reason you keep going when things get difficult. But motivation is not always the same for everyone. Some people are motivated because they truly enjoy learning English. Others are motivated because they need it for work, study, or travel.
Right. So there are different kinds of motivation.
Exactly. We usually talk about two main types: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation means you learn because you enjoy it. You feel happy when you understand new words or when you can watch a movie without subtitles. Extrinsic motivation means you learn because of an external reason. Maybe you want to pass an exam, get a better job, or travel abroad. Both are important, but the strongest learners are the ones who mix both. They enjoy learning and they have a clear goal.
That makes sense. When I was a student, my first motivation was simple. I loved English songs. I wanted to understand the lyrics. But later, I realized English helped me study abroad and make new friends. So it started as fun and became something bigger.
Exactly. That's how it usually happens. Motivation can grow and change over time. The key is to always remember why you're learning.
Yes, your why. Because when we forget our reason, it's easy to stop. So, for our listeners, take a moment and think, why do I want to learn English? Is it for communication, confidence, travel, or a dream job? Write it down somewhere. That's your personal motivation.
That's a great tip. I often tell my students to keep a small motivation note on their phone or desk. Whenever they feel lazy or frustrated, they can read it again. It reminds them that learning English is not just about grammar, it's about building a new part of your life.
I love that. A new part of your life. Because English really can change your life. It opens doors, helps you connect, and builds confidence. But like you said, motivation goes up and down. Sometimes we feel full of energy. Sometimes we just don't want to study.
And that's normal. Motivation is like a wave. It rises and falls. The trick is not to wait for motivation to come back, but to build small habits that keep you moving forward even on low energy days. And that's something we'll talk about later in this episode.
Perfect. So, to summarize what we learned so far, motivation is your energy to keep learning. There are two types: intrinsic for enjoyment and extrinsic for goals. The best motivation comes when you mix both. And most importantly, always remember your why.
Exactly. That's the foundation. If you understand your motivation clearly, everything else, practice, goals, consistency, becomes easier.
Wonderful. All right, friends, now that we understand what motivation really is, let's move to the next step: how to set clear and realistic goals so that your motivation doesn't disappear after 1 week. Stay with us. This next part is full of practical tips you can start using today. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're talking about how to stay motivated in learning English. In the first part, we talked about understanding your motivation, knowing your why. Now, let's go deeper and talk about something that helps you stay motivated, setting clear and realistic goals.
That's a really important step, Lina. I've noticed that many learners lose motivation not because they're lazy or unmotivated, but because their goals are unclear or too big.
Yes, I've seen that too. Sometimes people say, I want to speak English fluently. That's a great dream, but it's also very big. And when they don't see quick results, they feel disappointed.
Exactly. The word fluently can be tricky. What does it really mean? Does it mean speaking easily in daily life? Does it mean understanding movies without subtitles? Does it mean passing an IELTS exam? If the goal isn't clear, it becomes impossible to measure progress, and that kills motivation.
So, what should learners do instead?
They should break that big dream into small, specific goals. Instead of saying, I want to speak English fluently, try saying, I want to practice speaking English for 10 minutes every day. I want to learn 5 new words each morning. I want to finish 1 English podcast every week. Small goals are achievable, and each time you complete one, you feel successful, and that feeling keeps motivation alive.
I love that. It's like climbing a mountain. If you only look at the top, it feels impossible. But if you focus on the next small step, you'll eventually reach the top without giving up.
Exactly. And there's a popular method for this called SMART goals. It means your goals should be specific, clear and focused, measurable, you can track your progress, achievable, realistic for your level and time, relevant, connected to your personal why, and time-bound, you set a time limit. For example, instead of, I'll improve my English, say, I'll watch 1 English video and write a short summary every day for 7 days. That's a SMART goal, and it works.
That's so practical. And I think when learners see success from these small goals, it gives them a little happy energy. They feel proud, and that pride makes them want to keep going.
Exactly. Motivation feeds on success. The more success you experience, even small ones, the stronger your motivation becomes.
I sometimes tell my students to keep a progress journal. They write 1 sentence every day about what they did in English. Maybe, I learned a new phrase, or I spoke to someone in English for 2 minutes. When they read it after a month, they see how far they've come.
That's an excellent tip, because progress is not always visible day to day. But when you record it, you can see your growth, and that's the best motivation booster.
Yes, and here's another idea. Reward yourself. When you reach a small goal, celebrate it. Watch your favorite movie, eat your favorite snack, or just say, wow, I did it. It makes learning feel fun, not like a punishment.
I love that. I tell my students, learning English should never feel like homework. It should feel like a game you're getting better at. If you can make it enjoyable, you'll never lose motivation.
That's so true. So friends, let's summarize the second part before we move on. Big dreams are great, but break them into small, clear goals. Use the SMART method: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Track your progress in a journal or notebook. Celebrate your small victories because every step counts.
Exactly.
When your goals are realistic and clear, motivation doesn't need to be forced. It comes naturally because you can see your progress.
Beautifully said, Stephen. All right, everyone. Now that we've learned how to set goals the right way, let's move to the next big secret to staying motivated, making English a natural part of your daily life. Because the truth is, the more English becomes part of your daily world, your phone, your music, your thoughts, then you don't have to force yourself to study. You just use it naturally.
Exactly, Lina. Many learners think motivation comes from studying harder, but it actually comes from living with the language. If English becomes part of your daily world, your phone, your music, your thoughts, then you don't have to force yourself to study. You just use it naturally.
I totally agree. You know, when I was learning English, I used to think of it as study time, something I had to do. But once I started including English in the small parts of my day, listening to songs, watching short videos, reading posts online, it didn't feel like work anymore. It felt like fun.
That's the magic. When English becomes part of your environment, your brain starts to learn without pressure. For example, you can change your phone or social media language to English. Listen to English podcasts while cooking or walking. Write your daily to-do list in English. Talk to yourself in English while doing something, like, okay, I'm making coffee now. These are small habits, but they create immersion, and immersion builds motivation.
Yes, because then you don't have to remind yourself to practice. You're already practicing just by living. And I also love what you said about talking to yourself in English. It sounds funny, but it's actually a great way to stay confident and comfortable using the language.
It really is. Sometimes people feel shy about speaking English in front of others, but you can always practice alone. Speak your thoughts aloud. Narrate your day. Say things like, I'm going to the shop, or I should call my friend. The more you use English in normal moments, the more natural it feels.
That's a great tip. And here's another one. Use your interests. If you love cooking, watch cooking videos in English. If you love sports, follow English-speaking athletes. If you love music, read lyrics or interviews in English. When you combine your hobbies with English, learning never feels boring.
That's such a good point. People often think they need to learn from textbooks or grammar lessons, but language is everywhere. Every time you read a tweet, a YouTube comment, a recipe, or a funny meme in English, you're learning. And when learning feels natural, motivation becomes automatic.
Yes, exactly. And I think this approach also helps with consistency, because you don't have to sit for an hour to study. Even 5 or 10 minutes a few times a day is enough.
That's right. I call it the 5-minute rule. If you can't study for long, just do 5 minutes, but do it every day. Watch a short clip, read a paragraph, or repeat a few sentences. It keeps your brain connected to English, and that daily connection is what keeps motivation alive.
I love that. So simple, but so powerful. Even when life gets busy, 5 minutes is always possible.
Exactly. Motivation isn't about doing a lot once, it's about doing a little consistently. And when you build that daily habit, English becomes part of your identity. You stop saying, I'm learning English. You start saying, I live in English.
That's such a beautiful line. I live in English. Yes, friends, that's the mindset we want. So before we move on, let's summarize this third part. Make English part of your daily life, not just a subject to study. Use English while doing everyday things, watching, reading, speaking to yourself. Mix English with your interests. Hobbies make learning enjoyable. Follow the 5-minute rule. Short, consistent practice beats long, rare sessions.
Exactly. If you can make English a natural part of your lifestyle, motivation will never be a problem again.
Perfect. Now, we've talked about understanding motivation, setting goals, and living with English. But sometimes, even with all of that, we still face bad days. We feel tired, bored, or frustrated. So, what should we do then? That's what we'll talk about next. How to overcome boredom and frustration in your English journey. Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Friendly English Practice with me, Lina, and our wonderful guest, Stephen. We've already talked about how to understand motivation, set clear goals, and make English a part of daily life. But let's be honest, even when we do all those things, there are still days when we feel tired, bored, or frustrated. And that's what we're going to talk about now. How to overcome boredom and frustration in your English learning journey.
That's such an important topic, Lena. Because no matter how passionate you are, there will be times when you feel stuck. You might think, I'm not improving anymore, or I'm making too many mistakes. That's completely normal. Every learner goes through that phase.
Yes, I've been there too. There were times when I felt like, why am I still struggling with the same things? And I even thought about stopping.
Exactly. That feeling, we call it a learning plateau. It's the point where progress feels slow even though you are improving. And the worst part is, boredom and frustration usually arrive at that same point.
So, Stephen, what can learners do when that happens?
The first thing, don't panic. Feeling bored or stuck doesn't mean you're failing. It actually means you're growing. It's a sign that your brain needs something new, a new challenge, a new method, or a new perspective.
That's interesting. So, instead of quitting, we should change something.
Exactly. If you always study in the same way, your brain gets used to it. Try mixing things up. For example, if you always read, start listening to podcasts. If you always memorize vocabulary, try using those words in short sentences. If you always study alone, try joining a speaking group or an online community. Change brings freshness, and freshness brings motivation back.
I love that advice. And I think another big reason people lose motivation is comparison. They see others speaking better and start thinking, I'll never be like them.
Yes, that's a big one. Comparison kills confidence. It's okay to admire others, but never compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Everyone has their own pace. Instead of saying they're better than me, try saying they're ahead of me, and that shows what's possible. Turn jealousy into inspiration.
That's so true. And maybe also be kind to yourself. Sometimes we're too strict. We expect perfection, and when we make mistakes, we feel ashamed.
Exactly. But mistakes are proof that you're learning. Think about it. Babies fall hundreds of times before they learn to walk, but they never stop trying. Learning a language is the same. Every mistake is a step forward.
That's such a wonderful reminder. So, friends, next time you feel frustrated or bored, remember, you're not failing, you're growing. You're on the same journey every fluent speaker has already taken.
Right. And here's another powerful idea. Take small breaks. If you push too hard, you'll burn out. It's okay to take a day off, relax, and come back refreshed. Motivation needs rest too.
I like that. Motivation needs rest too. Yes, sometimes just watching a movie, listening to music, or going for a walk helps you come back with fresh energy.
Exactly. And finally, celebrate your progress, even the smallest one. If you understood one new phrase today, celebrate it. If you spoke one sentence with confidence, celebrate that too. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about movement.
That's beautiful, Stephen. So let's quickly summarize this part for our listeners. Feeling bored or frustrated is normal. It means you're growing. Change your methods to keep things fresh. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your own progress. Be kind to yourself and celebrate every step. Take breaks when you need to. Rest is part of learning.
Exactly. If you follow these steps, those moments of frustration will pass quickly and your motivation will come back even stronger.
Beautifully said. All right, my friends, we've covered a lot already. Understanding motivation, setting goals, living in English, and now handling boredom. But our final part is about something even more powerful: how to build long-term motivation. Because staying motivated for a few weeks is good, but staying motivated for years is what really creates fluency. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back, everyone. You're still listening to Friendly English Practice, and I'm your host, Lina, joined by our amazing guest, Stephen. So far, we've explored many sides of motivation: understanding it, setting goals, staying consistent, and overcoming frustration. Now, let's talk about the final and maybe the most important part: how to build long-term motivation. Because staying excited for a few days or even weeks is easy, but staying motivated for months and years, that's what leads to real fluency.
Exactly, Lena. Short-term motivation is like a spark, bright but quick to fade. Long-term motivation is like a steady flame. It keeps burning even when the wind blows. And the secret to keeping that flame alive is to build habits, not just moods.
I like that. Build habits, not moods. Can you explain that a little more?
Of course. See, motivation comes and goes. We can't depend on feelings alone. But habits don't depend on mood. If you make English part of your daily routine, you'll keep learning even when you're not feeling very inspired. For example, if you study every morning for just 10 minutes, that becomes your habit. You don't need to ask, "Do I feel like studying today?" You just do it, like brushing your teeth.
That's so true. I've seen that in my own learning too. When I rely only on motivation, I start and stop. But when I make it a routine, even small, I keep going without pressure.
Exactly. And here's another powerful way to build long-term motivation. Keep connecting English to your dreams. Ask yourself, why am I learning English? Maybe it's to travel, to study abroad, to get a better job, or simply to understand movies without subtitles. Whatever your reason, keep it close to your heart, because your reason is your power.
Yes, when you remember the why, the how becomes easier. It's like having your own personal fuel.
Right. And another important thing, make learning meaningful. If you only study from books, you might lose interest. But if you learn from something you love, music, movies, podcasts, or conversations, English becomes part of your life, not a burden.
That's such great advice. It's like making English your friend instead of your subject.
Exactly, Lena. And here's one more secret. Teach what you learn. When you explain a new phrase or word to someone else, it stays in your memory much longer. You can even post short videos or messages online sharing what you learned. It builds confidence and community.
I love that. Sharing your learning journey makes it feel real and meaningful. And I think community is a big part of long-term motivation too, right?
Absolutely. When you have a community, even a small one, it gives you energy. You don't feel alone anymore. You celebrate progress together, and that makes you want to keep going. Find friends who are also learning English, join groups, or follow people who inspire you. Learning is always easier when you have people walking beside you.
That's so true. And maybe the last thing we can add here is enjoy the process. Because language learning is not a race. It's a journey. And every step, every mistake, every small success is part of it.
Yes, Lina. It's not just about reaching fluency. It's about living the experience. Every new word, every conversation, every laugh along the way, that's what makes it beautiful.
So, to all our lovely listeners, remember these final tips for building long-term motivation. Create daily habits, even small ones. Keep your why, your reason, strong. Learn from things you love. Share and teach what you learn. Join a community for support. And most importantly, enjoy the journey.
Perfectly said, Lina. And to everyone listening, believe in yourself. No one becomes fluent overnight, but if you keep going with love and patience, you will get there. Every word you learn today brings you closer to your dream.
That's such a beautiful message, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been inspiring as always.
Thank you, Lina. It's always a joy to talk about learning and motivation with you and your amazing audience.
And to our dear listeners, thank you for staying with us till the end. We hope this episode helps you find strength and joy in your English learning journey. If you enjoyed today's talk, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Friendly English Practice. Stay motivated, stay kind to yourself, and keep speaking, even when it's not perfect, because every word counts and every effort matters. Keep learning, keep smiling, and keep shining.